One of the big challenges of preparing for success while you're going through the criminal justice system is figuring out what can I do today to position myself for success in the weeks, months, years, and decades ahead. That's why we have these daily discussions, is to try and keep people's head in the game all the way through the journey. My name is Michael Santos, and I am the founder of Prison Professors. And we create this content primarily it's really for all justice impacted people, but primarily for people who are gathering our content while they are locked inside of a jail or locked inside of a prison. We want them to believe in themselves and to figure out, how am I going to navigate my way through this labyrinthine journey while I've got so many different factors controlling aspects of my life. Well, if you've gone through some of the earlier versions of this series, you can kind of follow along on this process. It's the same process that we teach in our course, Preparing for Success After Prison, which anybody can get for free if they visit our website at prisonprofessors.com. They can simply go to if you're working inside of a jail or a prison, you can go to the top of the document where it says resources for reentry and download it and get it for your institution. We're at more than 100,000 people have access to these programs and use these programs to try and transform their lives. We get these letters every day from people all over the country who are inside of jails and prisons, people who truly want to make a difference in their life and get ready. But the only way a person can do it is if they take control of their own destiny. These are the lessons that I learned while going through 9,500 days inside, is you've got to figure out, what am I going to do? How am I going to get there? And that's why today's lesson on our daily discussion, which we do every day, you can catch it right there on our blog. Just visit our blog at prisonprofessors.com or listen to us on iTunes, and you will get it every day. But today we're talking about defining tactics, okay? And here's the blurb on today's lesson. When we're pursuing a pathway to succeed, we need a strategy. That strategy becomes our game plan. We use tactics to convert our high-level goals into reality. And the tactics guide us clearly on what we must do every day to move closer to the success that we have defined. Regardless of our challenges, the tactics at the beginning of our plan will evolve as we progress. Every day, we should pursue tactics that align with our strategy. And that's so important, that you've got to have this strategy to get you through. Because if you don't, it's kind of like being in the middle of the ocean without a compass. I don't know, I might paddle this direction one day, and then the very next day, I'll start paddling in the other direction. And that just doesn't work. We absolutely have to be defining a strategy and then setting clear tactics. Let's read today's lesson and learn a little bit about how we could use this strategy to apply to us regardless of external factors, regardless of where we are in the journey. So let me go back to the page itself, scroll down to the section, and just start reading. Deliberate reading would become a tactic to grow stronger. The library included books from different genres. There were stacks of westerns by Louis L'Amour, romance novels by Daniel Still, thrillers by James Patterson, and horror books by Stephen King. Fictional books can entertain us, and we can learn lessons from the stories. Since I define success as being able to emerge from prison strong with my dignity intact, I wanted to read books that would teach me how to grow and become stronger. While waiting to transfer to prison, I grew stronger by reading the story about Socrates. I could identify with Socrates because of his imprisonment. I wanted to find and read books that would teach me the tactics other people in prison use to improve their lives. On one of the bookshelves in the library, I found the autobiography of Malcolm X with Alex Haley. More than 20 years had passed since the book came out, but I did not know anything about Malcolm X. I heard that while serving time in prison, Malcolm transformed his life. I read his book, hoping to find clues on how he could use time in prison to grow. When I read books, I frequently encountered words that I needed help understanding. Sometimes I could decipher the meaning in context. Other times, I skipped over words out of laziness. Malcolm's biography taught me his strategy when he came across words he did not understand. He wrote down the words. Then he looked up the words in the dictionary. This tactic helped him to become a better communicator. That book inspired me to work toward building my vocabulary. Since I aspired to become a better communicator, I thought of words as tools. Like a carpenter needs tools to become a more efficient builder, a communicator needs a more robust vocabulary to become more persuasive. Learning more words would become a tactic that I could use to create more opportunities. I had to learn how to define words and how to use those words in sentences. I believed the tactic would be invaluable, helping me become a better communicator. Regardless of where administrators held me or what access I had to classrooms, I could use this strategy that I learned from Malcolm to improve my prospects for success upon release. What tactics have you created to help you overcome challenges? If you added 500 words to your vocabulary, how would that tactic influence your prospects for success? What steps could you take to add 500 words to your vocabulary? What influence does language have on your ability to open opportunities? And what tactics could you pursue to make you a more persuasive communicator? Word of the day is genre. Define genre and use genre in a sentence. That is our self-directed lesson for today. And to confirm that I am not asking anybody that's going through our prison professors courses to do anything that I didn't do while I was in prison, I'm going to tell you about some of the tactics that I am using to grow our efforts to make a bigger impact on the criminal justice system. You see, the criminal justice system has been around for a long time. But for the past 50 years or so, you've really seen how programs have changed. And it's almost like a bell curve in a sense that when I went into the prison system, they were just doing away with parole. And when they did away with parole, sentences got longer, prison populations exploded. There was a series of ancillary consequences that followed this pattern. And, we have now the world's largest prison population. But I am also seeing now the same thing. You are seeing changes to dismantle or disrupt what has been going on for a quarter century. The First Step Act in the federal system is a great example of this. Earned time credits or milestone credits in state system is another great example of that. And I'm always going to work to change that system. That's my strategy. That's the strategy for anybody, I think, that has really been justice impacted, particularly if a person has done 26 years in prison. But I can say that's my strategy is I want to change the system. And the strategy means I'm going to create digital content and asynchronous content or books or non-digital content to try and influence the lives of people in prison. But I also need a series of tactics to get this information into jails and prisons across America. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of spinning balls, and you need everything working together in order to get the outcome that we want. So one of the tactics that I create is doing things like I am doing right now, creating these daily discussion points, piping them into jails and prisons, striving to open more relationships with administrators in jails and prisons, striving to create collaborative relationships with like-minded people who want to support this effort. None of that would have been possible if I didn't plant the early seeds to really try and transform my own life. Because one of the salient points that I'm always giving is that I would never ask anybody to do anything that I didn't do. Had I knew how to think differently or think more strategically and use more tactical approaches earlier in my life, I wouldn't have made decisions that led me into the prison system. Ideally, that's where I want to connect with people before they come in. But if I can't connect with them then maybe we can connect with them through these videos and through this content before they get charged, so they can perhaps influence that process, or before they get sentenced, so they can perhaps influence that process. But if they've already been sentenced, if they're in custody, these people really need resources. So a tactic that I use is create resources, distribute them, open more relationships, travel to as many prisons as I can, make a presentation, show people that I would never ask anybody to do anything that I didn't do, and hopefully build something of value that will improve outcomes for people in the criminal justice system. That's what we do at Prison Professors. We do hope that you are finding value in this if you're inside, and you start to believe in yourself and realize that regardless of what the system does, I can do something myself to begin transforming my life. Regardless of what people are doing in the Capitol with regard to laws, I can do something to make sure that when I get out of prison, I have opportunities awaiting me that will allow me to prosper. That's what we would like to share with as many people as possible, because we believe that regardless of what the system does, we have a responsibility and a duty to share the lessons we learned from leaders like Malcolm X so that you can change your life as well. So if you're working through these programs on one of the digital tablet providers or working through it because the state allows us to bring it in there, we encourage you, work through all the Prison Professors programs and work on yourself. That way you can never have that excuse that says, they don't offer any rehabilitation programs here. The staff don't do anything. It's time to Malcolm up, right? Malcolm X up. Figure out how you can do it on your own. That's the message that I try to present to as many people as possible. But if you're watching this outside and you have access to the YouTube channel or the iTunes channel, we do ask that you will subscribe and visit us and pass this message along so all of us can work toward being the change that we want to see in the world. Thank you so much. My name is Michael Santos, and I believe in you.